For example, when Cypress was started in 1982, I had already been in Silicon Valley since 1970. I came here to get my PhD at Stanford. And I tried to start a company in 1979, which didn't get funded. And since we're in the habit here of naming firms that didn't fund people, I'll name Hambrecht and Quist. And I don't hold a grudge, but I have named them at every opportunity for the last 30 years. So we started, I worked at the University of Advanced Micro Devices under Jerry Sanders, a great entrepreneur. And we started Cypress. It was founded in December 1st, 1982. I was the CEO. That makes me, 2 years ago on the New York Exchange, in order to prove that saving money was good, I actually moved from New York Stock Exchange back to NASDAQ to save 300 grand a year. Therefore, I had the moral high ground within the corporation to beat on everybody else that was spending money. But back when we were on the New York Stock Exchange, I was about 26 years in. I'm 28 and a half years in now as CEO, and I was the longest tenured CEO. So I kind of get the award for hanging around, and then figuring out, is that worthy of getting an award? Well, I went and looked today. When we started Cypress, there were 59 American semiconductor companies, and we were the semiconductor industry. And I went through that list, and there are only 17 of them alive today. So one thing about hanging around is it's pretty hard to hang around in our business. There's only 30% of the companies left. And I thought about what the world was like when we started Cypress. There were 6 of us, and it was amazing. There was no personal computer. The IBM PC had just come out. I had to learn how to run a computer to do our business plan. There was no spreadsheet. There was this company called Lotus, and LJ7 of 7 Rosen lent me a beta site copy of Lotus, which was so buggy it trashed my plan about every other day, and I had to restart it. And I did our business plan in Lotus 123. There was no internet. I didn't email it to anybody. When we went to our site in San Jose, it was a wonderful site. There were orchards around it, literally. And as a matter of fact, Cypress was a tree. It was almost pear tree semiconductor, because Apple, you know, they were famous. They were a couple years ahead of us, Apple, pear. And we, 1 minute, it ain't going to happen, sorry. And we almost bought a pear orchard, but I came in one day and literally they ripped it up. No Cisco. I used to run where Cisco headquarters is right now in the field. Our first big customer is Digital Equipment Corporation, but they got bought by Compaq. Another big customer of ours was Compaq, but they got bought by HP. Fortunately today, HP is one of our top 5 customers. And transistors were 1.8 microns in size, 50 times bigger in lineal dimension, and 2,500 times bigger in area than they are today. So those changes are why semiconductor companies go away and 2/3 of them are dead. Think about Polaroid. Think about instant photography, and the electronics comes along and they can't make the change. They figure if they make the film a little faster, whatever's going to work. We started out as a static random access memory company. Memories were good. They helped develop technology. We were number 20 out of 20. We've hung in there. We're now number 1 in the world in static random access memories, high-performance memories near computers. That's the good news. The bad news is, in 2000, the static memory industry was $6 billion, so to be number 1 in that mattered. Today it's $1 billion. So we managed to gain share in a market that went down. So in 2001, when we were licking our wounds and the static RAM market was in the tank and Samsung was beating on prices, we finally passed them last year. We said, you know, we've got to do something different. We are silicon men. And if you think about the world, there was the Stone Age man, there's the Bronze man, there's the Iron Man, right? The Iron Age. And, you know, after the ash, you know, is 100 feet above where we stand right now, 2 millennia from now, from the great earthquake and volcanoes that followed, thank you very much, that little sign means 5 more minutes, right? And after we get covered, they're going to dig, and they're going to discover Silicon Man, and the anthropologists will talk about who we were. And they're going to say, well, they had kings. But we decided to get out, and we did 2 things. One is we said, we're Silicon Men, what can we do? How can we change? What can we do with our capability of being silicon people? And we said we can make solar cells. And that was the SunPower story. We spun them out. They were different enough from us after 5 years that we realized they needed to go their own way, but that company will do over $2.5 billion this year. Another thing we said is we can make things out of silicon that are programmable, and we can make programmable systems on chip. I won't talk about that. It's complicated and esoteric, but guess what? It sent me back to my textbooks because I was a memory guy. I worked on processing and lithography, and all of a sudden I had to work on architecture. I took it at Stanford, but it was something you kind of had to take to get your PhD and get on out in Silicon Valley, and I had to go back and read those books. So, boiling down to why being a survivor matters is vision, quote unquote, what we're here for, really boils down to learning. And learning boils down to passion for learning and understanding. And that really is what, to me, creates vision. Just an example, we talked about Pinot Noir a little bit. I got into wine chemistry big time. And I started trying to understand it. It's very complicated, very esoteric. I really like it. And, you know, I started, eugenol is an alcohol that smells like cloves. There's this in that wine. 1,2,3 propane triol is an alcohol with 3 OH groups on it. It gives the body to that wine, etc. Valita and I even went to Davis, and we had a tasting seminar on exotic compounds, 13 carbons long, called norisoprenoids, and they are the exotic flower-like bouquets in the best wines, and they're very difficult to grow. And we tasted them. They're so concentrated, you can smell and taste them at 1 nanogram per liter. 1 nanogram per liter, meaning 10 drops in the Hetch Hetchy reservoir would make the San Francisco water supply taste like raspberries forever. So I have a passion for that too. So I guess being old and still alive is okay with me because it comes from learning and a passion for learning, and that's what Cypress Semiconductor, my child, I have no children, is about. Thank you very much.